Can you tell me a little bit about, like, we talked a little bit about the kind of, I guess, the woke abuse or pathology of these type of dynamics. You touched on it. Can you say a little bit more about the backlash that we see from the right against this social justice identity politics?
Yeah, Don and I've been talking about this more with both Don and a couple of other friends. Like, this may not be as much observation as like fear of the future. Ryan, you and I, right before we started hit the record button, I think we're getting into this a little bit. I'm fearful that there could be pretty intense counter woke, almost like well, not almost like militant counter woke uh, waves that come through based on some of the news stories and how they're received. Like it's strictly like specific the Rotterdam stuff that's coming out right now, and some of it's like the inverted hierarchy stuff that you write about, Adon, with social media posts being jailable offenses in the UK, and the scandal with Rotterdam coming out. I'm like reading some of the comments, and I try not to get too far down that rabbit hole. But one concept that is important is that when we repress material as a group, when we really try to shove it down, it behaves like a gas. Like we're compressing a gas, and eventually, when it finds that little point of rupture, it comes out violently, sideways, in a way that's not controlled, in a way that reinforces our fears and validates in our minds, like, oh, see, I knew that stuff was not safe. If you're in a group and there's a strict taboo about talking about attraction, and you're really trying to tightly control that energy, you're probably going to see it manifest as like an underground sexual encounter with group members or something like that then erodes trust in the group or like clearly violates boundaries. And because it manifested in an inappropriate way, in that example, that group view that it's inappropriate material and it's like toxic to touch is reinforced. And so we use the metaphor of like Cronus swallowing the gods, and then eventually Zeus like poisoning him so that he spits the ball back out, and then they end up overthrowing him. So it's like that stuff that we try to swallow and shove down in there ends up being our undoing effectively. And I think a lot of people who are moderate or slightly conservative, socially conservative at least, have learned to not speak about certain beliefs in professional contexts, depending on which profession you're in, right? Like certain professions, probably folks on the liberal side have felt this way in conservative environments as well. But I think there's a lot of anger has not found room for expression. My concern is that, historically, that can really lead to extreme movements that are damaging, right? Like if we're not, it's like the wildfire management metaphor, right? Like if you're not doing controlled burns in the forest and working with that material, you're going to have a massive forest fire. And yeah, it's scary stuff. I do think there's a sense of deep anger that hasn't found root for expression. And I think that I think that the amount of times we see the mainstream media distorting the truth on certain pieces or like misleading in some way just with phrasing, where's that going? I think that is like part of like fueling this just anger towards the machine in a way. And yeah, I worry a little bit about that, like a strong, self-righteous, angry backlash that could come.
Well, it's exactly why people like Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes are popular. This sort of like almost shaking, angry at the current establishment energy is like, oh yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. So let's go down here. That guy is a solution,
Yeah, it's the Joaquin Phoenix Joker meme, right? Where, we love that meme of like, you get what you fucking deserve, Mark, whatever. Like the unhinged, like the violent, unhinged nature of that. Yeah, in context of cinema, and it speaks to us because it's saying something that's true in a way.